Something is going on with Celtic's best midfielder, and nobody is giving a straight answer. We have also got a former Hoops hero firing back at his critics after an incredible comeback season. Gordon Strachan making everyone laugh with his quotes about O'Neill, a Celtic legend with a brilliant message about what the club meant to him, and Charlie Mulgrew dropping some surprising names for the manager's job. Big one today, let's get into it. But first, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. There is a real mystery building around Reo Hatate, and a former Celtic insider has now come out and said publicly what a lot of fans have been thinking privately. Something is not right. Hatate has been named in the squad for Celtic's last 3 matches, but has not played a single minute in any of them, not even a brief cameo. He sat on the bench at Dens Park. When Celtic won at Dundee, he was on the bench for the St Mirren game in the league, and he was on the bench again at Hampton in the Scottish Cup semi-final when the game went all the way to extra time, and Celtic were crying out for someone to change it. Still, Hatate did not get on. For a player widely regarded as one of Celtic's best midfielders, that sequence of non-appearances is impossible to ignore. His numbers this season are down compared to last year, fewer goals and fewer assists, but he is still the kind of player who carries the ball through pressure, opens spaces, and changes games. Leaving that on the bench in a match that needed a spark is hard to explain. Former Celtic B-team coach and professional player, pathway manager Darren O'Dea, has now broken his silence on the situation. He said on the breakdown, "That probably really is the underlying problem at Celtic, is why your best midfield player isn't on the pitch. And I can assure you, it's not because the manager ain't picking him because he's flying in training, or he just thinks there's a better player. There's a problem. I mean, he mustn't be training, right? I don't know. We don't know." That last line says everything. Even someone close to the club does not have a clear answer. Whatever is going on with Hatate behind the scenes, it is clearly not a straightforward situation. With 5 league games left and a Scottish Cup final on the horizon, Celtic can ill afford to be without one of their most dynamic players at the worst possible time. Now for the main story, as Charlie Mulgrew has shared his views on who should be the next Celtic manager, and the names he has put forward are already dividing opinion. Mulgrew spoke on TalkSport and gave his honest take on the candidates circling the Celtic job. He backed Jens Berthel Askew, the Motherwell manager who has done well on a tight budget, and also put forward Craig Bellamy and Robbie Keane as names he would consider. He said, "I would take him at Celtic. I know the results have fell a wee bit the last month, but I still think what he's done with that budget, what he could do with Celtic in Europe potentially, I know they need to get there first, but what he could do next season with that would be interesting. You never know who can handle that pressure of being a Celtic manager until they're in the job. So you speak about Craig Bellamy, who I think would be a great candidate as well. Robbie Keane's another one who would do it." The reaction to that last name in particular has been mixed, to put it politely. Robbie Keane has been linked before, and the reception among fans has never been particularly warm. Bellamy is a more interesting one. He has had some coaching experience and carries genuine hunger for the game, but managing Celtic would be an enormous step up from anything he has done before. Askew remains the most discussed realistic option right now. What he has produced at Motherwell on limited resources has turned heads, and his style of play has been admired. The concern, as always with Celtic, is whether someone can handle the weight of that job day in and day out without prior experience of that pressure. Martin O'Neill remains in place for now with the league still alive and a cup final ahead. But the next manager conversation is only getting louder, and today's comments from Mulgrew have given fans plenty to argue about in the comments. In other news, Gordon Strachan has made it absolutely clear he has no intention of going back into football management, but his comments about Martin O'Neill are some of the most entertaining you will hear from any pundit this season. Strachan was asked on TalkSport whether watching O'Neill come back and get Celtic into a title race and a cup final had made him think about returning himself. His answer was the opposite of what you might expect. He said the exact opposite. You know, me and Martin are the best of mates. I am looking and thinking, what are you doing? He's still doing the bumbling fool act after games, but he knows exactly what he is up to. I know more about football now than I ever did, but I don't have the anger or the drive to do it again. Martin is digging it out from somewhere. I have no idea where he digs it out from, this drive to keep going, but I am wishing him all the best. The bumbling fool act line is brilliant. Anyone who has watched O'Neill's post-match interviews this season will know exactly what Strachan means. He has this way of appearing slightly flustered while simultaneously being completely in control of the message he wants to send. Strachan, who worked alongside him for years on the Scotland national team and knows him better than most, clearly sees straight through it with a smile on his face. For Celtic fans, Strachan back in any capacity was never really on the agenda, and nothing here suggests otherwise. But his admiration for what O'Neill has done this season, dragging this group of players back into contention from third place, comes through clearly, and the quote alone makes this story well worth talking about. In other news, Odsonne Edouard has hit back directly at the people who doubted him, and his response is both passionate and completely backed up by his record. Edouard spent several difficult seasons in England after leaving Celtic Park, most notably at Crystal Palace, where his form fell off a cliff and he found himself not even making matchday squads at times. That public decline led plenty of people to write him off. When he eventually moved to Lens in France and links to a Celtic return began circulating, some framed it as a gamble rather than a sensible piece of business. Edouard has answered that directly after finishing with 12 goals and 3 assists in 25 League One appearances for Lens this season, a return that proves without doubt he still has it at a high level. He told Ons Mondial, "When you see people saying or writing the Odsonne Edouard bet, it's a gamble. I'd like to bet on someone who's played in the Champions League, the Europa League, who's scored goals in the Premier League, and pretty much everywhere he's played. I'd like to bet on a 27-year-old player who's scored over 100 career goals." That's what annoyed me a bit. I've been, in a manner of speaking, underestimated. I wasn't playing at all for a while. I wasn't even making the squads anymore. I was invisible to people. I was training 2 to 3 times a day. I was waiting for this moment, and as soon as I had the opportunity to play again, I had to show everyone that I was here, that I was still capable of scoring goals. Lastly, Joe Hart has opened up about what his move to Celtic truly meant to him, and his words are a genuinely moving reminder of just how much those years in Glasgow shaped the final chapter of his career. Hart joined Celtic in 2021 after spells at Burnley and Tottenham that had seen his reputation fade significantly. There were real doubts about whether he still had what it took at the top level. What followed at Celtic Park answered those questions in the best possible way. He became an integral part of the treble-winning squad under Ange Postecoglou, earned back the trust of supporters and teammates alike, and left in 2024 having recaptured everything that had made him one of England's best goalkeepers in his prime. That's all the latest Celtic news for today. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one. Hail, hail.